Yo, 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 what is going down? It is the Fantasy Football Show here on Sunday, the first Sunday of August. So you know we got to get ready to kick it off right here on this Sunday. Of course, you know we got my homie, my brother from another mother, Nick Wilcox, in the building tonight. What up, Nick?
Yo, what's happening, my guy? What's happening?
Not much, man. And then we got a special guest with us tonight, Colin McTamany. Out here. Did I get it right?
You nailed it, man.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's go.
You might be the first one ever to nail that.
Let's go. Which is great because, man, listen, my southern accent sometimes, man, it just like butchers names. Nick, he loves messing with me about how I say people's names, but I'm glad I got that one right, man. What's up? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
This is long overdue, guys. We were just talking. Last time we met each other was at the Fantasy Football Expo 2 years ago. I feel like we've been long overdue to hop on the mic and talk ball, so I'm glad we're getting to do it first Sunday in August.
Yes, and yes. Hey, man, before we get started, tell everybody, man, where they can find you and find some of your work at.
Yeah, I am a content creator at FTN Fantasy. I do some written stuff there, mostly written stuff, but I also do some short form video content. Every now and then I'll do a live stream or so. So, If you need any of my stuff, it's at ftnfantasy.com. And I'm also posting it on my Twitter account, which is there.
Yep.
And Reddit. I'm big on Reddit. I love Reddit. Huge platform there. So I love talking to people there too.
Dig that, man. Dig that. Yeah, man. I've been loving some of the shorts you've been putting out, man. You and Laquan, the FTN team, man, like you guys have been like I've been trying to find something that I don't agree with you guys, but it's been very, very hard for me to find something that I don't agree with, man. So you guys are doing a great job over there, man. Some fire content. So, yeah, man. So we'll get rolling. First thing, man, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. You from Philly. I'm a LeBron guy. Let's talk about it, man. How you feel about the King coming to Philly, man?
I was actually more surprised when I got the notification for Jaylen Brown because I thought this team was on a downward trajectory. How the hell are we going to get rid of this Paul George contract? Embiid's new contract kicks in this summer. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what we're doing. We're wasting Maxi's prime. You get Jaylen Brown, it's a game changer already. The team's already better, right? Then the whispers start to come around that LeBron James was also intrigued by the Jaylen Brown signing. So, when you start hearing that, you get excited. But I got excited before he went to the Lakers too, that he might come to Philly. And he didn't. Listen, he's 42. I get it. But listen, I've been a lifelong fan. I have his rookie card somewhere over there in the hallway, hidden away. If anyone ever broke into my house, they would not be able to find it. I do need to get it graded, but I've just always been a fan. And listen, I don't care if they win, lose, whatever. LeBron James is a Philadelphia 76er, and I never thought I'd be able to say that. So this is just a lifelong dream.
Yeah, man. I agree with you with the Jaylen Brown thing. Obviously, I'm up here in the New England. I'm in Maine, so Boston, obviously a couple hours away. I still can't understand why they made that move. And then out of all the things to make the move to the Sixers, that's crazy. And now, when LeBron was kind of like a thing, I know everybody's going to be like, oh, I knew it was coming. I told one of my guys, I was like, if he's really, truly trying to win a ring, Philly is the place to go. Because he's got all that youth and, those guys, they can run. He's got a big now to play with. And all he's got to do is just go out there and facilitate. And I think the key part for me with him is it's not through the first three quarters. It's in the fourth quarter when they're down 8, down 10, and now he gets ready to go put on a show. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
I just love the people that are saying LeBron went to Philly because he's ring chasing. I didn't know that we were getting a ring in Philly. I had no clue that we were chasing rings in Philly. So to hear that in a sentence, I'm like, okay. I mean, if people really think he's ring chasing in Philly, okay, then. Have you watched the last 10 years of Sixers basketball? They're not ring chasing, but obviously now this is
the roster. overall now here. Okay,
basketball can change in an instant. Yeah,
it sure can. It's more about like LeBron's gonna fill in that 4th spot where let's be honest, like the wings have not been great for Philadelphia in quite some time. So it's more about with LeBron in this nucleus now.
Exactly.
It is and the Eastern Conference historically been a little bit more easier than the West, right? Where LeBron got his ring when he was on the Eastern Conference. He was a Laker when he got one too, but that was a bubble. But anyhow, look, LeBron, I'm happy for him. You know what I'm saying? The fact that he took a 2-year, $8 million deal shows that at least like he's looking out for not only for the overall team, but also it's like, look, like I know what I need to do. And I think with the Lakers, he could have probably done that with them too, but let's be honest, I think the Lakers were still a piece or two away from really like making
in the West, in
the West especially. So now LeBron being in the East again, LeBron now again got a great roster now to make a really good run at it. So let's just see what happens.
Yeah, I just feel like of all the 4 teams he's been on, obviously Cleveland's going to embrace him. They drafted him. He came back and won with them. He's from Ohio, Akron. LA and Miami, no shade on those markets, but, they're going to get more into it in the playoffs. I just feel like Philadelphia is going to embrace the fact that he's here game 1 to 82 and into the playoffs. So it's going to be cool to see. We have 34 nationally televised games. It's going to be really cool to see, assuming good health all around.
And he said 2 things, man. He said he wanted to make some history, is what he said. He said he wanted to make some history, and like obviously he can do that in Philadelphia. So like if they win, like there's that part of it. And to your ring chasing part, man, listen, you being a LeBron fan for 20 plus years, people they say all that stuff, and I said for me, I'm like, what human being in their right mind doesn't want to put themselves in the best possible position to be successful in their professional career?
Well, he gets criticized for all the rings he doesn't have, and now he's getting criticized for going after one more.
Yeah,
there's
crazy.
Haters no matter what.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
I'm not hating. I'm just saying in general, like it was the best position for him to put himself in a ring chasing.
Guaranteed.
So I wasn't hating per se. It's just
not you, not you, but like just like general conversation. Yeah,
I
for sure.
I don't know. No pours with LeBron. I think he's obviously an amazing athlete because look, bill of health throughout all these years for the most part, like nothing significant has happened to him. He's always shown up for the most part. Like so there's nothing to hate about LeBron. I just think there's some people that like prefer Jordan, prefer this guy over him, and that's where that comes into play.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, moving off of LeBron, man, seeing yesterday, Colin, you were at SFB 16 in New York, and you were also hanging around yesterday in the Flex Leagues in New York City, man. I was able to listen to a little bit of the Flex Leagues while I was referred to it in the trap at work yesterday on my breaks. I went and listened to that a little bit, man. Tell us how that was yesterday, man.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to run the Scott Fishbowl Philly live draft for the last 3 seasons. Ryan Hallam, who runs NYC, actually came down this year to help me set up, keep an eye on things because we grew from 5 leagues to 8 this year. So a lot more fantasy football managers running around, a lot more, money to raise for charity and stuff. So we needed it to be perfect. So he was a huge help. And I see why he was the perfect person because what he does in New York is just next level, maybe number 1 top tier. There were 10 drafts, 5. Then there was like an overlap period, 5 more. And man, it was July and you've got 120 plus fantasy football managers in this 3-tiered bar, having drinks, making their picks. Michael Fabiano was there from Sports Illustrated. Jeff Ratcliffe of FTN was on the mic for Sirius XM. And then you had the Flex Leagues. You had Joey Wright, Alfredo Brown. I think you had Adam Ronis. You had a ton of people there, a ton of firepower. So it was just a cool meeting of the minds and just like a great way to really move us into August here for fantasy football season. So a lot of fun. If you haven't been to any of these, you got to go.
Yeah, man, dude, it sounded like it for sure. And I'm just going backwards, like you're talking about, like New York. We obviously got the Boston, New York, Scott Fishbowl thing. You saying that, and all I can think about is my guy Coop standing on tables talking about, hey, man, how we gonna do it better than New York there? So shout out to him, man, and shout out to Boston as well. But no, that Flex League, man, that sounded like fire, man. Rich Rebar, I heard he was there. Lawrence Jackson, I heard him there. And just a lot of different concepts. And I think like the caveat with that league, right, is like you don't have to pick a tight end, right? Like you could.
I think so. I was trying to pay attention to that, but the Scott Fishbowl scoring is so different. You had 2 Scott Fish drafts upstairs, then flex leagues, and then downstairs more. So I'm like trying to get my bearings with who's making what picks and why. And it was just, I don't know, it was a little overwhelming, but it was a lot of fun too.
Dig that for sure, man, for sure. All right, man. First football question, man, we got for you. Obviously, man, you're a big time Eagles fan for sure. Do the Philadelphia Eagles, do they make the playoffs this season? Obviously, they lose A.J. Brown. Obviously, they fired their offensive coordinator as well as some of like the highlights on things. Like, what's your take on the Eagles this season, man?
I just think there's too much damn talent on that roster for them not to make the playoffs. Obviously, anything can happen. I think we know what the biggest thing that could happen for any team. You know, we're seeing a little bit with the 49ers now. I don't want to speak it into existence of what's going on with some of these teams in camp already, but Philadelphia's talent, you know, fully healthy, I just think they're going to win the NFC East. But I'll be honest, I try to take the rose-colored glasses off and look at the NFC East. The Cowboys are good. Cowboys got better. Their defense got better. A lot of continuity on offense with Dak, CD, Pickens, Javonte, Jake Ferguson. Like, they have a great core there in Dallas. So I think it's going to be a really tight race between those two teams. I'm not so sure that Washington has the firepower to keep up with those two. They're going through some changes here. Can Jaden Daniels stay healthy? And then New York, listen, I'm not buying in yet. John Harbaugh, you got to prove it to me, especially with what we saw from Pete Carroll last year in Las Vegas. You know, apples and oranges a little bit, but I still think the jury's out. I mean, Malik Neighbors has only caught 2 passes from Jackson Dart in a game, but we're ready to anoint them as this like high-powered offense with Scatterbo and Isaiah Likely. Good fantasy pieces, but I'm just not sure that they have a playoff-ready team. So when it comes to can the Eagles make the playoffs, they're really only battling one team for the division, and I think it's going to be a close race. So at worst, they're a wild card, right? I just think this defense is super legit. You know, there's some question marks on offense. No A.J. Brown, new offensive coordinator, and Sean Mannion. But again, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Mekhi Lemon, Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert. Like, there's still some really good players on that offense. If the offensive line is healthy, I don't see how they're not putting up 25 to 30 points per game on average again. So, yeah, I mean, the short answer is, yeah, I do think they're going to make the playoffs. But I think the more discussions we're having in Philly is how far are they going to go this year beyond, you know, just making the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like I agree with you, man. I think like everything, like you said, as far as like the talent wise, there's just too much talent, you know, all the way across the board. Like that's one of the things the Eagles have done over the last couple of years, man, is they've been obviously super good, 2 years removed from being Super Bowl champs. Obviously, and Saquon Barkley in that magical season that he had as well. You mentioned A.J. Brown, you know, moving on to New England for sure, but, you know, trying to find like some sort of a replacement with Lemon, and then obviously they bring in Dontavian Wicks as well.
Yeah.
Who's like, just from the sounds of things in training camp, like sounds like he's having a pretty good training camp the first couple of days into August. Not, you know, very early. And defensively, I think they've always been a house defensively for sure. I think that's always been like the staple for them is defensively what they've been able to do. So, got anything, Nick?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I think everything that you guys just said that makes sense. I do question the Eagles beyond like just making the playoffs, right? I think Philadelphia's over the last at least 5-6 years have been a team where you're like, this team has to be not just making the playoffs is nothing, right? Almost. I'm not saying it's nothing, but it's like that's just minimum, right? The Eagles are been used to at least getting a few Super Bowls in the last several years. So now it's like, can we get back there? What are we missing? And then from a Saquon Barkley perspective, I'm sure we'll get to. I'm just definitely curious, right? I think we like Barkley, right? But I'm definitely curious how it all plays out for sure. So I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah. So talking about that, you got to talk about the guy that runs the show.
Yep.
And that's Jalen Hurts. I've been on record for saying this has nothing to do about X's and O's. My next statement, this is just me like with a gut feeling and seeing the type of competitor that Jalen Hurts is. I feel like this is going to be one of his better seasons. And the reason why I continue to say that is because I think there's something to be said about the type of competitor that he is. And, you know, the storylines with him and AJ Brown and losing a big piece like that. And the critics tend to think you're going to fall off. And guys that play the quarterback position, they want to prove people wrong. Jalen Hurts has had to prove people wrong his entire career. So this is another situation, at least in my mind, I think. And you mentioned Sean Mannion. I think, I don't know why, but like I'm highly infatuated with the influx of young offensive coordinators coming in, young play callers, because I think like the game is changing. And as the game changes offensively, schematically, you're going to see different things. And it seems like they want to, maybe get Jalen under center a little bit more. Do you think he's going to be in line for a top 3 finish at the position this year as far as fantasy goes?
I've been struggling with that a little bit because I really like where he's the cheapest he's been in years in fantasy drafts, right? So that kind of makes him a little bit of a target. But I actually just wrote an article on FTN Fantasy, draft this, not that. And looking at the quarterback position in general this year, I wrote, why draft Jalen Hurts in the 6th round when you can get Tyler Shuck, Kyler Murray, Bo Nix, all these guys later? It's not to say I don't believe in Jalen Hurts. I really do. But is he going to be top 3? I think he can, right? He's done it before. And we've seen him rush. We've seen him throw. I mean, there's a lot of variables that have changed this offseason, right? But do I want to pay a 6th round pick to see if he's going to be a top 3 player when I can get a wide receiver running back in that range that I feel a little bit better about my depth? Or do I want to hunt quarterbacks later in the draft like the Kyler? Can he bounce back? Tyler Shuck, Bo Nix, those guys that I mentioned that have some rushing upside as well. Even Malik Willis, like, listen, I'm not investing in Miami too much, right? But this is fantasy football. You don't need to necessarily be the best of the best to finish in the top of the ranks. You just need to put up points. And Malik Willis averaging 9 rush attempts per game or so, that's intriguing to me for fantasy football. So it's not that I don't think Jalen Hurts can do it. It's just, do I want to invest a mid to high pick to see if he will do it? We'll see. I don't know where some of my drafts are going to go. I feel a little bit better about investing in him for Superflex because there's a little bit more priority at the position. But quarterback is just so deep this year, especially if you play in like most people play in like a 12-team league, right? If you play in like a 10-team league, there is no need to be rushing to get a quarterback high in the draft. Like, think of who the top 10 quarterbacks are in fantasy football, and then think of the next 10. They're still pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting to see if Jalen Hurts keeps up his rushing. A lot of his fantasy value, no shade again, but has come from those 1-yard punch-ins on the tush push. Are we even going to see the tush push with Sean Mannion? I don't know. Maybe they lean more on Saquon, Tank Bigsby. I do expect a little bit more of a better passing performance from Jalen. I hope so, because they're going to start having contract extension talks. So he does need to show up a little bit. I think he's proved enough that he's a winner, right? He doesn't say much, but he hears it all. So I do expect Jalen to bounce back a little bit from last year. But I don't know if you're getting a top 3 quarterback. I don't have the confidence you're getting a top 3 quarterback to spend a 6th round pick on. You might get QB 7, 8, 9, 10 with him, and that's okay. But I just think you'd be better to invest in other positions where he's going.
Yeah, there was a lot of things for him, and like your article was definitely, man, it was fire. Taking a read of that, man, as far as like you highlighting like the rushing attempts that he had, and like how that decreased from last year, how the yardage decreased from last year in that space, and then too, even like another element of his game that did decrease dramatically last year was the intermediate passing. The lowest in his career at 9.7 yards per attempt, 728 yards, and a 56 completion percentage. Work in the intermediate area. And like we talked about, like maybe Mekhi Lemon, maybe he helps that out. Maybe he helps out that space for Jalen Hurts, as you mentioned, the contract extension talks, right? And the passing piece it's got to happen. But then like the rushing aspect, like for him, you play man against him, he doesn't pull the ball down and run. You play zone against him, he's going to pull it down and run. So obviously you have to think like teams are going to play like a lot more man against these guys. So it'll be interesting to see and like how teams approach him and how they attack him, because in the same space, I know we're talking about Jalen, but like these two are married together. But Devontae Smith last year, interesting stat with him was like him playing in the slot was like the most he had played in the slot last year for his entire career. And then he moved outside. Now I'm pretty sure like the yards per attempt for him being on the outside was 3rd next to guys like JSN and Puka Nacua. And I seen something that was kind of like, hey man, like this is the trajectory we got to hope for with Devontae Smith is that trajectory that Jackson Smith and Jigba took. So maybe it is. I'm not saying Devontae Smith is JSN this year, but like somebody's got to be that guy. And I think like maybe there's a scenario where Devontae Smith is this year's JSN.
Yeah, he very well could be, right? And it's actually kind of shocking because I've saw that too. And obviously some people are going to roll their eyes at that. Like, of course, everyone's looking for the next JSN, right? But there's some truth to how Devontae Smith has played. I mean, go back to college. Like he did it all in college, right? And we've seen his numbers without AJ Brown too. Since they signed AJ or traded for AJ Brown has commanded 27% of the target share despite missing games. That's with the missed games. So that's a huge chunk of the target share that needs to come back. And I mean, again, if you look at how the targets were distributed against wide receivers from Jalen Hurts, it's AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and then I don't think a single wide receiver caught more than like 18 passes over the last 3 seasons. So people have to step up around AJ or Jalen Hurts, but I mean the clear target is Devontae Smith, and you can still kind of get him, I think, at like the 3-4 turn, which hey,
it's crazy work.
That's kind of where JSN was going last year, right? So there's a lot of similarities there, but I think it's a dangerous game to make those kind of comps because if that's what you're expecting when you draft that player and he finishes even like here, you are left a little disappointed. So you kind of have to think of the range of outcomes with someone like Devontae Smith. But I mean, I think the sky's the limit. He could be a guy we're talking about the 1-2 turn the next year.
Yeah, I think Devontae Smith is someone that I'm looking to target, especially if I'm drafting at the end of the draft with a 12 team for sure. Because if you grab Devontae Smith and then like somehow Mecca Buka's there, somebody or Lamakonki, like you're talking about a started roster start. I think Devontae Smith has a dangerous chance of at least finishing like wide receiver 10, wide receiver 11, wide receiver 12. And we're getting him at prices that are like wide receiver 19. Wide receiver 20 right now in some cases. So I definitely believe in Devontae Smith. As far as Jalen Hurts, the only thing that stops me from Jalen Hurts getting a top 3 finish at the position is, we talked about the rushing dipping. That has to improve. And then also, like, from a passing yards perspective, like, if anything else, like, more touchdown passes needs to be thrown, of course. I think that's still possible in this offense. Like, without A.J. Brown, we're still talking about, Devontae Smith. We're talking about Dallas Goedert. We're talking about, guys that, you don't think may step up, and Devontae Wicks and Hollywood Brown is on. Forgot about it. So there are some pieces that can still get Hurts, elevated. The question I have is, like Colin said, it's like I have Hurts as my QB6, and that's pretty much consensus. So it's like, am I going to draft Hurts that I could probably get at the end of the 5th, early 6th, based on roster construction? It's like, does that make sense, right? In a format where 10-team especially, you could definitely weigh on QB for sure. But Jalen Hurts is like, it's almost like a bank on that he'll get back to the point of being a top 3 versus like, I'm going to draft him at QB6 and hope. I don't know. The only way that would work for me is like if Hurts really has like the outlier season that he grabs a QB1 somehow away from Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or whatever. At that price tag. So I have to believe that in order for me, Jalen Hurts, to really get there. So it's possible, but the probability of it, it's like 65-35 that won't happen. But that being said, I think Jalen Hurts is still a solid pick. It's just more about like, from a cost draft perspective, does that make sense? From a real life perspective, I think Hurts can definitely step up his game. Like we talk about, you talk about man versus zone coverages. Like Jalen Hurts is like, you just got to step up, my guy.
You got to step up.
You got to step up.
You got to step up, dude.
It's just that simple. We all know what Jalen Hurts is capable of, so it's more about now just going out there and proving it.
Yeah, I mean, how many 300-yard, 3-touchdown games can you even think of through the air Jalen Hurts has? It's not a lot, right?
No.
I'm more wondering, what are they going to do when they get in the red zone? Because we expect this team to have a lot of red zone trips, right? And if the defense is as good as they are, what's the time of possession like for this Philly offense? It's probably going to be pretty high. But does that mean more just, killing the clock rush attempts? I just don't know. I look at a guy, again, not to bring him up, but he was kind of part of this discussion, was Bo Nix. Everyone's like, oh, he hurt his ankle last year. I'm out on Bo Nix. Bo Nix just said the other day, I want to run. It's part of my strengths, and we should play to our strengths. Bo Nix was like top 5 in red zone attempts and had the rushing. So that combination is more appealing much later in drafts than the question marks that maybe Jalen Hurts still has in fantasy. He can still average 20 points per game, but there's like 7, 8, 9, 10 maybe quarterbacks that I could say could average 20 points per game. So, yeah, I don't know if he's going to be a target of mine. I mean, if people load up, if Josh Allen, Lamar, Jaden Daniels, Drake May start flying off the board, I'm not going to feel pressured with the other like 4 or 5 managers in my league looking at each other like, who's the next take quarterback? Who's taking Jalen Hurts? Like, I'm not going to blink there. I'll just wait at that point and load up the rest of my roster.
Right. Same. No, I like that, man. Definitely a fire session for sure. Fire session. You got this one, Nick?
Yeah. So Saquon, right? Saquon has concerns about him going into the season. Right now, ADP says Saquon is the current RB8 off the board, picking at the 202. As far as rankings goes, at least for me, I have Barkley actually as the RB5 right now in my rankings. So I'm a little bit more bolder than some other people with Saquon. Colin, explain why you might be just either concerned about Barkley and then overall like the upside case for him.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Because this time last year, Saquon Barkley wasn't just RB5. He was like the 5th pick in drafts, right? We were all high on Saquon Barkley coming off that high volume, highly productive season. We've seen that before where running backs have these high volume seasons and then, take a little bit of a step back. It wasn't even so much Saquon Barkley struggles. Kevin Patullo, I can't believe I just said his name out loud.
I was about to say, Buddhist man.
Yeah. I mean, it just felt like the Eagles were. Let's bring it back to basketball, right? It's a fantasy football show, but we were talking basketball to start. It just felt like the Eagles were, shooting 3-pointers and not going for the layups, right? Like, why were we just bombing it downfield, to AJ Brown and hoping to move the chains that way? When they got in the red zone, they started doing a little bit more layups. Hey, let's get Dallas Goedert these short yardage touchdowns. That looked great, but it just felt like there was an imbalance between those layups and 3-pointers. So Saquon Barkley, it just felt like he was put in a position where he had to hit the 3-pointers every single time he touched the ball. He didn't. He was rushing to the outside trying to make a big play, something we saw a lot with New York, and that's just not really his game. Not to mention, Lane Johnson was hurt. Landon Dickerson was hurt. I mean, that front of the Eagles line, which is one of their strengths, was super battered, and it really impacted the whole offense as a whole. But, Saquon Barkley probably more than anybody. I mean, he still finished okay, but he wasn't a top 5 pick, kind of player last year. The fact that happened, and now you look at this year, it's a classic buy the dip, right? I mean, not much has changed for Saquon Barkley. In fact, it may have all just improved. Healthier offensive line. We had guys going down to freaking Venezuela to get their health up on the Eagles offensive line. Sean Mannion's calling plays, which, listen, first-time play caller, but we've seen tons of first-time play callers. Why is that a negative, especially when you're on the Sean McVay coaching tree? You're one of the branches there. There's just a lot of good around Saquon, but everyone's looking for the next big thing. Oh, we've seen Saquon do it before. Oh, he's 29. He was hurt or he didn't do too well last year. I'm back in, right? The only thing that worries me a little bit with Saquon Barkley this year is the emergence of Tank Bigsby. It seems like Tank Bigsby is getting some run in camp. I don't think we're going to see like a 60-40, 50-50 between these two. But could we see 65-35, 70-30? And is that 30 for Tank Bigsby going to be a little bit more in the red zone? There could be just a little bit of devaluing there that happens. But again, Saquon Barkley's not priced, beyond where those fears, lie for me. So I actually like where he's at right now. If you got him as your RB1, you're feeling great because I think he's going to finish as a top 12 running back. I just think everyone, we look at these names, Ashton Genty, Amarian Hampton, Bashal Tootin is one of those names that's, up and coming now. Everyone's looking for those guys on the rookie contract that are ready to take the next step. And we've seen Saquon do it already. I have utmost confidence that he can do it again, but you do need to prepare for, the down of that, of him getting hurt, line getting hurt, offense having its struggles. But the reward is much higher than the risk in this situation for me.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned Sean Mannion again, and he was somebody that like kind of like in preparation for this, it kind of kept coming up, and I think like you mentioned, like being a first time play caller is not a bad thing, but also being a first time play caller from the McVay tree is not a bad thing. Also being a first time play caller from the McVay tree, also playing in the NFL is also not a bad thing.
Right.
Like as well as right as we've seen, like one of our favorite coaches,
Play like
Kevin
9 years,
O'Connell.
right? Mannion
I
played
don't.
9 years, right?
I don't even know like what. Like
Backup?
I
He
just.
was backup.
Yeah. But like one of our favorite coaches, Kevin O'Connell, was a backup. Was a backup quarterback, and like look at what the product is that he's been putting out as a head coach / coordinator. So like as this process kind of continues, I'm like, all right, like. Okay, maybe I can buy the dip on Saquon. And you talked about like Nick talked about it a couple shows ago, like the offensive line as well. You're talking about the offensive line. Like sometimes, man, like it's just as simple as everybody else is healthy. And because it wasn't anything bad like for him, like as you mentioned. Hey, what's up, Wendy? It wasn't anything bad for him. As you mentioned, the yards per contact, that was bad. It went from 3.8 to 2.5 for him, but that's a product of the offensive line, right?
Well,
so
also I wanted to add is that like because of the offensive line struggles, this also led to like game scripts where you couldn't run the ball effectively. Eagles were 5th highest in third and out rates, 38.2%. They also had the 10th fewest points per drive at 5.67. So again, these things led to like the offensive line and combined with just like chucking the ball too much down the field or not converting enough. These leads to positions where we're not getting great rushing game scripts. So with overall Barkley, it's not the concern of Barkley per se. I think overall, like Colin, you're saying, it's like I just think people are looking for the shiny new toy, and overall, it's more about like can the offensive line just make sure they stay healthy? They've been a top 5 offensive line for however long
for forever
and here. So I don't think that changes. It's just more about now it's just everybody staying healthy. And that should translate to Barkley at least, right now he's a steal for me. Like I said, he's my RB5. But it's more about like can everything else come together game script wise to make Barkley still more effective. And I think that's definitely where I think I'm at with it too.
What's funny is you're at the 1-2 turn, right? And everyone's debating, I'm going to get Amari Hampton because his offensive line had a bunch of different combinations, especially at left tackle last year. Both tackles were hurt. Amari Hampton had nowhere to run. And, man, he's going to, have all these rush attempts and he's going to be the lead back for, Los Angeles and et cetera, et cetera. The same can be said about Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
And we've seen him do it.
Yes.
But people want this, I'm going to get Amari Hampton because I think this is his year. Why not Saquon? Like, why not? And Saquon's going after Amari Hampton. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And like the other thing too is like to put a bow on it is like, dude, like Saquon still was I think he was 11th in red zone carries. He was 11th in goal line carries. Like, so like he was still getting work like inside of there. And like him being hit behind the line, like he was hit behind the line, I believe, like 47% of the time last year, like on his carries. So you mentioned New York earlier on, like in the conversation, and like doing this, like that's all I was thinking about was like, this is what it looked like for him when he was playing with the Giants. Like the talent is still the talent. It's just to Nick's point, like, hey, like game script, situation, offensive line. So like, I think, him being at 202, I think running back 5, like, like I could definitely see how that could be a thing, like for sure. But it feels like too to me, I think like it could be a very similar to like Christian McCaffrey type of year, right? Like where it's very volume based because he didn't even get the chance to hit a lot of those home run plays, which is what makes him special is those home run plays. And you talked about Tank Bigsby, man. Like Saquon Barkley is a selfless player. And so, like, by him being a selfless player and him only caring about winning, it could be something where that bleeds into our fantasy rosters when you talk about, like, hey, is it red zone touches? Like, is it touches in the fourth quarter? Like, depending on the game script and game situation, he's not one of those guys that's bigger than the team. So I think, like, as great as that can be for the locker room and obviously for him, obviously as fantasy managers, to your point, man, is something that we kind of we have to be aware of.
Last thing I'll say on that, because we mentioned him a couple times, if you do draft Saquon Barkley, that elevates the priority for me for Tank Bigsby. I'm not huge into I got to get my running backs handcuffed. I actually like taking handcuffs of other people's running backs.
Same.
But,
Same.
Yeah, but Tank Bigsby is a, at face value, I already want Tank Bigsby in my drafts, but if I have Saquon, I may bump up Tank Bigsby even just like a round just to, rather than take that upside wide receiver that, might be a flex at one point during a bye week or so. Give me Tank Bigsby.
No, I love it, man. I love it. All right. So obviously going at running back 8 and the 202 is Saquon, but going at running back 7 and at 201 is Devon Achane. And I know you talked a lot about this in your article, for sure. But like I will say that like I've been on record for this year for saying about Devon Achane, my biggest concerns for him is obviously you mentioned that the offense has been stripped down. You talked about this, I believe, too, in your article about the check down percentage for Tua. I think it was something like 16%, and like Malik Willis was something like 6%. So you got that aspect of things. And then just the Miami Dolphins, let's just call it what they are. They're probably going to be, not probably, they're going to be piss poor this year. They're going to be piss poor. And then too, like some of the other concerns and some of the other topics of conversation have been Devon Achane getting the goal line work. My underlying biggest concern for Devon Achane and having him on my roster for this season is I don't think he's going to be there when you need him, meaning that like the Miami Dolphins are piss poor and they're probably going to be out of contention for any type of playoff or anything. And they're going to be in a space, even though they just gave all this money to Malik Willis, they're going to be in a space potentially where they're competing for, an Arch Manning or a high-end quarterback, whoever the guy is going into next year. That's my biggest concern about Devon Achane is that right there. And now, like Tupac, all eyes on me. There ain't nothing else there in Miami, man. There ain't nothing else. So how do you feel, or let us know how you feel about Devon Achane, and are you shying away from him at this price tag that he's currently at?
Listen, I talk negatively about some players from a fantasy football perspective sometimes. We all do, right? You have to be nitpicky when you're talking about your first and second round pick. Yeah. Devon Achane right there at the bottom of the graphic, 201. That is a core piece of your roster. And if you have the last pick in your draft, you're talking about, making Devon Achane at 201. If you picked him, you're not saying another player's name or putting a sticker on the board for probably another half hour, depending on who's drafted in your league. You have to sit with that decision.
After a few more drinks too, right?
Yeah, right. You might want to have a couple if you draft Achane. It's nothing against Devon Achane. I really wanted to see him end up elsewhere, actually, because to take your words there, I think Miami's going to be piss poor. Now, listen, the Dolphins finished 25th in points per game last year, 26th in yards per game. They were already bad, right? Yeah. It could get worse. I don't think it's going to get better, but it could get worse. And Devon Achane on that team last year was great, right? 1,350 yards. That was 5th most. He wants to go for the rushing title this year, and they might try to get him that rushing title. If not for anything else, they can hang that banner in the stadium down there in Miami. That's fine, right? But you have to weigh the things that we saw last year with Devon Achane this year. Mike McDaniel was there last year. That's a positive. Tua, we don't know much about Malik Willis. 155 total pass attempts in his career. Anthony Richardson has more pass attempts, almost double than Malik Willis. Yep. So we really don't know much about Malik Willis, and we don't know much about this offense. I mean, Bobby Slowick's the offensive coordinator. Historically, Bobby Slowick has not been an offensive coordinator that I'm like, I want whoever's in his offense. So, and listen, we don't want to say his name 3 times, but I'm going to say it a second time. Kevin Patullo is down in Miami.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So
Bobby Slowick almost got hands put on him by D'Amico Ryan.
It's like Beetlejuice. You can't say it a third time. So that's it I won't even say it. But when you look at Devon Achane's trajectory, though, right? 103 targets or 103 rush attempts as a rookie, 203, 238. That was an element of his game that people didn't think he had. Everyone thought he was just an RJ Harvey, like the PPR back, right? Kind of like an Alvin Kamara, more receptions than carries, more points from his receiving game than rushing. I just don't know if there's going to be enough production from rushing on this Miami offense for Devon Achane. The receiving could still be there, but you alluded to it from my article already. Tua's had the lowest average depth of target 2024, seventh lowest in last season. He ranked 4th and 15th in check down rate the last 2 seasons as well. So this is a guy that doesn't want to get hit, isn't going to take off running, and is looking for Devon Achane dumping it off. What we do know about Malik Willis is he's going to tuck and run. He's one of the better, maybe even the fastest quarterback out there right now, as Lamar, Jalen Hurts get a little bit here. Malik Willis, the most mobile quarterback. But again, defenses are going to keep them honest there. I mean, when you think about game planning for Miami, it is, let's not let Malik Willis run against us, and let's not let Devon Achane break a big run here. I think most teams are going to be confident they're going to, have their way with the Miami Dolphins. But again, there's not enough juice on that offense beyond Devon Achane that I just don't know if you're paying RB5, 6, 7 price tag for him, you're going to get that again. Back-to-back seasons of RB5, but there's just been so much change for the worse down in Miami. You could still get the RB12. That's cool, but I'd rather start my draft maybe double tapping wide receiver, and then we'll talk about running back in the 3rd round.
No, agreed on that one for sure. Here we go.
What's State of the Union address, Devon Achane.
The president right here. Here we go.
Okay.
No, everything you said was right. In terms of like everything, how it looks on paper, right? It doesn't look great, right? We have Malik Willis, who's a running quarterback, which usually doesn't bode well for running backs who receive the ball a ton. We talk about, Tua was a statue quarterback. He was just dropping back and trying to look for low A-dot targets in Achane, just trying to break off one-on-ones against a linebacker. Here's my devil's advocate for you. Where do you take Achane if you start slipping down the board? Where do you start considering him is my question.
Right. If you're in a draft with a couple like-minded people that, are also a little bit apprehensive about it. I mean, I still think he's a 2nd rounder because the ceiling is a top 5 running back.
Right.
I think you just have to play the odds a little bit, and you have to also look inward a little bit. Are you someone that is a little bit more risk management style? I'm going to take the guy with the high floor and the high ceiling, or are you going to take someone like Devon Achane where the ceiling is a top 5 running back, but we don't want to talk about the floor. The floor might cave in, but you're going to live and die by that, right?
My whole thing for Achane is like back-to-back seasons of least being RB5, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously the situation has changed, so obviously you have to adjust to that. The reason why Achane I still find him in high regard is, he's my RB6, and the reason for it is because, again, like we talk about guys that, around that top area in the draft where you're like, okay, like who's going to be able to, be a breakout guy out of nowhere. Achane can definitely be that. I think current price tag at RB7 is a bit rich even for me, right? What I will say is that I've seen drafts where Achane goes 210, 211. Dare I say reaches a 2-3 turn. So that's where like the appropriate ADP price tag right now, I wouldn't take him as RB7, I'll be honest. But what I will definitely consider is that if, like you were saying, Colin, he is a 2nd round pick for sure. And if he starts going down that board where it's like, okay, if I'm picking top 3, right? If I somehow in that area, if Achane falls to me at that 2-3 turn, I'm pouncing. Because like we just talked about, high floor, not a higher floor, but a higher ceiling. And there's going to be times where you're going to need that for your lineup. So even what I'll consider is actually, it's funny enough, we just talked about 2 players, Barkley and now Achane, that a couple of years ago that actually I whopped you guys with a little bit. So it's kind of funny that we're talking about these 2 players. So it's funny.
I'll give you one out. I'll give you one out of 2. I'll give you one out of 2.
And Achane actually. To start my drafts if I'm at the end, and see how that fares out. But if you're really if I always say this, if you're really concerned about Achane, or you're really concerned about running back that is in this category that has potential to give you not as high of a floor but higher ceilings, just grab another running back you really feel good about on the end of that draft, and then see where things go. If you're drafting in the middle, that kind of sucks. I probably wouldn't follow that strategy. But if you're at the top 3 pick and obviously Achane is starting to fall towards the end of that, I'm grabbing him there. So I think for me, it's more about not exactly the ADP price tag where I'm, you want him or you're not. It's more about like the room I'm in, because most times Achane is going to fall down a little bit more than what his ADP price tag is right now. So that regard, strategically, like I'm going to grab Achane. It's just all about kind of when. But it's more about like you can make a strong case from if you're starting RB at the end of your draft from 10 to 12, you can definitely make that work. Is what I'm trying to tell people too.
I think for me, I'm just like looking at it. I'm like I'm looking at the names that are like going after him, and I'm like I couldn't make myself take him
right
before Saquon, Omarion, Chase, Ken Walker, even like I think like that's like for me, I think that's where the discussion starts. It's like with Ken Walker, like Derrick Henry,
I was gonna say Derrick Henry is the one for me because the risk with Derrick Henry is he's 32.
Yeah,
is this going to be the year he falls off the cliff? That's the risk for Henry.
But if not, then you got an F-350 out there going 100 miles an hour that nobody can tackle yet again.
Yep. Oh, there he is.
I think Achan's just like having a Lamborghini on like a freeway that's just in bumper to bumper traffic. You're like, I want to drive this as fast as I can, but I'm stuck. There's nothing going on here. Nowhere to go.
Yeah. No, it's I think that's definitely a tough place like to be at for sure. But like I think like that's where it starts for me. If those guys are off the board, right, and like as you mentioned, Colin, like if you're on the back end and like you double tap wide receiver, or even if you start off like wide receiver like early on, like with a Chase or a Puka or something, and you're coming back around and he's your first running back, then like I feel okay like about that because my wide receiver room is probably going to be so daggone good that it's like, all right, like that's cool. And then like, like you can still come around and get like some pretty good value and things like like in your article, again, like you talked about Javonte, we talked about him last week. I think like that's a really good take, like right there.
Safe. Yeah.
It's a really good take right there. So I think like that, like, I'm not like so like anti Devon Achane that like, I just like won't. But like I think like again like given like whatever the circumstances are and whatever like that roster looks like, if it is Chase, if it is Puka, if it is JSN, if it's something like that to start off with it, like I'm a little bit more open to having Achane on my roster.
If Achane is in my opponent's lineup, I'm not happy about that. I'm kind of scared. Like I don't want to go against Devon Achane.
Right.
But if he's in my lineup, I'm also kind of scared. Like, what am I going to get today? So that's kind of the like imbalance here with him. And there's just some players that like I want him in mine and not in yours. He's one of those, like, I don't want him in yours, but I kind of don't want him in mine either.
And as we're talking about this, like, this is a great transition as we're talking about this. Blind spots, right? Like, so we're moving off of players and kind of talking about concepts a little bit because I'm very intrigued like by these things. And definitely got like a lot of respect for you and like the content that you put out and kind of like your thought process was behind it, like a lot of things. How do you personally avoid blind spots for players going into drafts?
I think the biggest thing, and I still see people making this mistake, but listen, there's work leagues, there's family leagues, there's people that are just kind of casual week before, day of, print out their rankings and go there. But if you're serious about winning, I think the best thing you can do is put your players into tiers. And that is going to be the biggest way to avoid blind spots, because if you have your players tiered out, you can see who's left in tier 3. Oh man, there's only one player left here. Am I overlooking Mike Evans sitting here in this tier before it drops off to the next, those older players or just the guys that you've thought about already, that you've constructed these tiers a little bit? You start to question a little bit more of like, yeah, I put him in these tiers, but why is he in tier 3? Why would I put this guy in tier 2 instead of tier 3? When you have that little extra thought rather than just listing them, do they deserve to be in this tier? I think that's the best way to avoid blind spots, because you're just putting a little bit more thought into each player rather than I want, John before Joe before Jim, kind of thing in each of the line, in each of your rankings there. It's just a good way when you're constructing, getting your draft prep ready, you start making your tiers and you're going down the list, you're looking at players, you're like, man, but am I really going to leave him out of this tier? Let me do some research on this guy. So I think preparation is key, but I do think making tiers is like the best way to avoid that altogether, because it's easy to cross names off, look at the guy and go, I don't want him. That's a blind spot right there. I don't want him. I haven't looked at him. I haven't heard anything about him. Well, maybe you should have. Maybe you should have thought, why is he here in the rankings or so? So that's my answer. I don't know. What are your guys' philosophies there?
I'm with you on it. I think it's more about when I survey the field of draft, partial is going to be about who I'm in the room with and what I might know about information-wise, what someone might historically may do. Obviously harder to do when you're obviously just drafting with people. You may know some of them, you may not know all of them. This is for particularly like, work leagues or home leagues or whatever, where it's like you already kind of know for the most part, like maybe someone might get a little bit QB happy a little early. You may know someone that goes and has a strategy of they go, running back receiver balance. They may have a position where they just, they're RB hungry like me. So you may already have that in your overall intellect, right? So something where I look to do is I try not to give it away too much, but even if I do, I'm okay with it. I think what you have to do is, like you said, have a tiers list of like, okay, for example, right? There's receivers that I may want, right? And at some point, there's a receiver right before a tier drop off. And you're like, okay, if I don't grab a certain receiver before this point in the draft, I'm not going to be looking so hot. So what I need to do is I need to get myself in a position, make sure that I'm not always in that position. I think something you could easily do is literally be like, okay, like you just said, Mike Evans, like on ESPN, he's like buried in the rankings. That might change, but he's buried like in the 70s, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So that's an example of like guy I want to not only have, but also like don't want to wait too long to go grab him, even though it's ahead of rankings, so to speak. So this is a classic, like getting your guy in your tiers that you think are part of your own tiers versus like standard rankings, right? Taking advantage of those. On Sleeper, for instance, Zay Flowers, if some people are on him, some people are not. So it's like, I don't mind Zay Flowers. I think he's decent. I think overall he's a guy that should benefit from a Ravens offense changing their offense a little bit. So I definitely want to grab him. He's a little buried in Sleeper rankings. So it's like finding out these little things when it comes to actual standard rankings versus your own tiers, and that's going on your point. That's what I look to do as well.
Yeah, I think another thing too, real quick, is just that a lot of people are always trying to make like the flashy upside pick. And I think blind spots, just generally speaking, can be those safe players. Like, you want your league to go ooh after you make your picks. You got Ashton Genty this year, big breakout season. If you load your roster with all those kind of players, you can crash and burn real quick. Like if you're upside, breakout guys, if you have like 5 of them on your roster, like I know my home league last year, I had Matthew Golden as a starter, which not great. I had Chase Brown, who not his fault, but I kind of overlooked, if Burrow gets hurt, what's his offense going to look like? There were just a lot. Brian Thomas Jr., another one, like, oh, he's going to keep it going. Like I had a lot of upside guys. I did not win my league. If you not figured that out already. But there was just a lot of players that, you start to get really excited about. You kind of have to have like foundation pieces along the way too. So don't have a blind spot for the guys that have been doing it for year after year after year. Amon-Ra St. Brown in the first round is one of those guys that I feel like he should be higher. It's a little oversaturated in the first round with top tier guys, but wide receiver 3, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 3, like you're getting solid production. Like I don't care that the offensive coordinator changed. The quarterback didn't, the head coach didn't, and Amon-Ra St. Brown did not change his style of play either. Like you're getting a good player there. Like don't overlook that because what could Christian McCaffrey do this year? Like if you want a solid foundation piece, some of them are staring at you right in the face early on. So I think if you try to invest in these like breakout high upside guys, you can kind of miss those foundation pieces along the way. And it can, be the difference of even just like 6th place and 9th place, like missing the playoffs.
Yeah. My home league roster sounded a lot like yours. Matthew Golden,
I did okay. Let me be clear. I did okay. I mean,
listen, I didn't make the playoffs. Mine was Matthew Golden, Brian Thomas Jr., George Kittle, Brock Purdy. I'm trying to think who else. Like I actually drafted Devontae, but it just like Travion. Like it went bad. But then like when
everything that could go wrong went wrong, pretty much.
But then when week 10 hit, everybody was looking around going, I don't want to play this guy. I don't want to play this guy.
Right.
But like there's 9 weeks have already happened, so you've got 3 wins. So it sucks. I'm the oddball here, I guess, man. It's probably just because of my brain. Like I've tried tiers before, and like when I try tiers, like all I do is just like end up like creating more like conversation and questions like amongst the group and being like, oh, well, this guy should be here, or oh, should I have them tiered off by like transition to teams, or oh, should I have them tiered off by like, you know, potent offenses, or oh, should I have them tiered off by targets? Like, so for me, like I just like it's just a straight ranking thing for me. Like tiers are dope, like they're dope. But for me to create my own tier, just the way like my brain works, like I would much rather just go cross and get there and go, okay, all right, so here we are, like right now, and it's Josh Jacobs or it's Kyron Williams. Like that's it. Like I need a running back, and these are the two players, or these guys right here. And I have Josh Jacobs ranked higher for this reason. So like I've got to trust the work that like I put in during the offseason. Yeah, I've got to trust. No pun intended. Trust the process. I've got to trust the process on this. And I think for me, like blind spots are players that like for me are guys that like I go back through and I look at like my best ball rosters and I'm like, okay, like why don't I have any like shares of this guy? And like guys for me that like I know going into the season that I'm gonna have blind spots for. Cam Scatterbo, I'm gonna have a blind spot for him because like as you mentioned earlier, like you got to prove it to me. You got to prove it to me. And like seeing like, and seeing like how things were last year, like I don't know if and like maybe I'm wrong, right? And like that's okay, like for me, like because if I'm wrong with him, I'm confident enough that like I'll be right like in other places, like with other picks.
That's a big key too.
Yeah, like and so like and it's okay. Like that's the thing is like it's okay to miss like on certain players. Like it's okay to not have any shares of a certain player. Specifically when you start to get into like the second and third round, because as you mentioned in the first round, the first 12 to 15 picks, we all know like you're not going to have a chance to get them again. Like it's really from 17 to like 35, 40. Those are the players right there that like really you pick. Those are the players that you pick. So for me, I think like that's my blind spot, like concern is like, you know, looking around and like just getting comfortable at like drafting like the same players, like in redundancy in multiple drafts and being like, okay, like not diversifying my portfolio. So like when I go into, because obviously like all of us gentlemen here do multiple drafts. So like doing multiple drafts, like you might have an itch to always start off like running back heavy like Nick. But for me, I might be like, hey, like I want to split the difference to go wide receiver running back. So maybe like in my next draft, I'll be like, okay, like let me change up the concept and go, you know, wide receiver, running back, or have a running back within the first 3 rounds. That's how like I avoid blind spots for myself, is just trying to changing my strategy going into every draft being a little bit different. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I know like for me, like going into like later drafts, and I'm not sure if you guys are like this, but I always like think about, all right, I think I'm just gonna draft this team now based on like who are guys that like I'm afraid that I might have married. Like, that I missed the boat on. Like now I need to have them on my roster, man. And sometimes that's paid like really good dividends for me. Sometimes it hasn't. But yeah, like that's how I approach like avoiding blind spots. So same space, man. Who are players you got blind spots for this season?
Yeah, I think right now the guys that I'm like avoiding a little bit are, I don't want to say I'm completely avoiding them, but like the veterans that we've seen do it time and time and time again. Like when I'm staring at, you know, Mike Evans and Derrick Henry and these guys that are getting up there in age that, you know, I'm 34. I don't want to say they're old, but they're getting up there in age, right? For football years. But I'm looking at some of these other young players that are kind of next to them. I'm like, well, sorry, my dog's next to me. If his tail flashes across the screen here.
Oh, all good, brother.
But yeah, when I'm looking at like these running backs, I'm like, okay, would I be okay if Derrick Henry is on my roster and falls off this year? Like, am I going to be okay with that? Mike Evans, same thing. Am I going to be okay drafting him? And then, you know, that substation attacks his, you know, hamstring out there in San Francisco. Like, I don't know if I'm okay with that. I find myself maybe avoiding those kind of guys, but they can be glue guys. They can be guys that, you know, you don't have to think about. They're just in your roster and set and forget. And I feel like I'm finding myself avoiding those guys too, but complete opposite of that. I feel like I'm overlooking the rookies a little bit too, because I didn't love this rookie class. I didn't love where they went. Love again, like Jeremiah Love, like I'm kind of maybe overlooking him a little bit. Could he just be this high volume back end RB1 where he's priced at. Carnell Tate, I kind of prefer Wan'Dale Robinson at cost. Jordan Tyson, he looks pretty good. I know Chris Olave played every game last year, but like, what if he doesn't? He's shown he hasn't before. Maybe I'm overlooking Jordan Tyson. Like, I feel sometimes I try to invest a little too much in rookies and try to get them early. Like, I had Jamar Chase when everyone was worried about the white stripes on the ball. I had Jahmyr Gibbs when everyone was kind of worried, like, oh, maybe did the Lions take him too high? Is he just going to be, a passing down back? Those guys had good seasons, but, it wasn't until they got better later on. I don't want to base my teams around those guys because I want wins early. So maybe I should be leaning more into the guys that I've seen do it before and then support them a little bit later with guys that they can break out second half of the season. So trying to find that balance right now, I feel like it's a little bit of a tricky year because everyone almost seems to be on the same page with a lot of players right now.
Yep.
Like
Weird.
there's not a ton of variance in some of these players, especially at the top. Like rankings are rankings across the board for a lot of people. So you really have to believe in your guys and just invest and just go for it.
Yeah, it's like you're like, that's the one thing that's like you're spot on about is like they're like everybody, and I guess it kind of falls into context about like what I was saying earlier about how like guys and like people that create content that like I enjoy like watching and seeing. I'm like, oh, smash like. I'm like, yeah, I like that take. Like, yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, because like
we all love Parker Washington. We're all
right.
Washington.
Like I hated Parker Washington at the end of the season, and then at the end of the season, I'm like, okay, I guess he can play now, right? Like, but I think like I guess he can play, but like, yeah, he can play. But like that's the thing, as you mentioned, man, it's like not a lot of variance, like as far as projections go, and like that's like what everybody uses. So like going backwards to be like, hey, like you have to trust your own process and not intentionally find a way to be different than the rankings, but you have to find out where like the rankings are incorrect at based off of like where you got it, right?
You could definitely dare to be different, but I also don't want to, like last year, I feel like everyone was calling about JSN, Clint Kubiak, and I did believe in that. Don't get me wrong. But everyone seemed to be so high on him that his price got a little bit too high for me to actually like pair my beliefs with what I actually thought he could do. I didn't have a ton of JSN last year, and that was a blind spot because the echo chamber was just JSN. I'm like, I don't want to be like part of this herd that is, going after JSN and then we're all miserable together. So I tried to dare to be different in that regard, and it proved to be wrong. That was the season to probably have him because maybe now he's overpriced. Like I don't know. So you got to kind of sift through the noise a little bit and really, you're the one making the picks. Like you got to trust your gut and say like, this is my guy. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong and I'm going to lose a league. But if I'm right, I'm going to hoist that trophy at the end of the year.
Love it. All right. Who was your QB1 to end the year? Like, obviously, like in your profile, you got QB Academy. So, like, I'm like, all right, like, I want to know what's up, man. Talk to me. Who finishes the year as QB1 this season and why?
Yeah, that's a quote from Howie Roseman that said, the Eagles are a quarterback factory. So, they're always churning out quarterbacks. We've had tons of them on the roster, but not afraid to cut Wentz and draft Jalen Hurts. But my QB1, I mean, I'm not going to dare to be different here and say anyone other than Josh Allen. Like we've seen it. He's done it. I believe in it. He's got DJ Moore. His former offensive coordinator is now his head coach. So there's continuity there. I think Josh Allen is going to be the QB1, but a dark horse candidate I will give you that's, we've all heard the name, right? But a guy that's going later that I think can challenge him is Caleb Williams. I'm super high on Caleb Williams. The rushing, the passing, Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson had Jared Goff. Jared Goff did not have the legs that Caleb Williams has. The Air Jordan throws, nothing like that. The only thing that worries me about Caleb Williams is, are they going to remain run heavy in goal-to-go situations, red zone situations? Because that did kill Caleb a little bit last year. He had good rushing upside, but there were some games where he had 15, 16 points because DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai, against my Eagles especially, were pounding the rock into the end zone. I just think the talent is oozing off that roster. Loveland, Burden, Odunze. I want one of them, and I want to get Caleb Williams too. I love stacking those guys this year. So I think Caleb Williams is one of those guys that isn't ranked as high as Josh Allen, not an immediate threat to Josh Allen in the ranks, but I think by year's end, they're going to be next to each other, side by side with names.
President of the Caleb Williams fan club right here, baby. You know
okay.
what I mean? So yeah.
I'm the secretary.
All right, I want to be on the cabinet too.
Yeah, you can be for sure. So I think you already kind of answered the other question, like best value in the draft. So we'll move past that one. So we'll get ready to get to the end here before we get to our rapid fire session. What's your favorite season-long prop that you would give to anybody that's watching right now?
Favorite season-long prop? I think. Are you talking like a player, team? What do you?
Anything, man. Anything. Any like yards, teams, wins, playoffs, whatever.
I mean, the first one that came to mind was Giants under 7.5 wins.
Okay.
I don't believe at all in that team. I think there's going to be some growing pains. I think they're going to be much better in 2027. But when that line came out, I think it was actually maybe 8.5 first. It's since dropped to 7.5. But now Malik Neighbors looks good. So, maybe I'm a little bit wrong there. I like the Saints to make the playoffs. I don't know what kind of prop people are looking at, but I really like the Saints this year. Starting to get a little itchy about, are the Buccaneers going to flop? Are they about to blow that up? Like, I'm not really sure. That division feels very wide open, and I like Kellen Moore, Tyler Shuck, what they got going there. And then really, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Caleb Williams, I'm gonna go right back to him. The Bears have never had a quarterback throw for 30 touchdowns or more in a single season, and they've never had a quarterback throw for more than 3,500 yards or 4,000 yards. I'm sorry. Caleb Williams is going to do that, and if his prop lines are under those numbers, I'm smashing those all day. I think he can actually win MVP. So
talk about it.
Yeah,
talk about it.
I'm really high on Caleb Williams and the Bears. If everyone wants to go grab those pass catchers over me, that's fine. I'll get the guy that's throwing on the ball. So, if you haven't figured it out already, that's my guy.
Man, God, man, I knew I liked you. I knew I did. All right. Last question before rapid fire. We ask everybody the same question. Who wins the Super Bowl this year? Oh, okay.
There's the helmet pick.
Congratulations. I will tell you something. You are the first guest that we have had to not pick the Rams.
Okay. So the thing with the Rams is more has potential to go wrong than right with that team this year.
That's fair.
In my opinion.
That's fair.
Matthew Stafford was in a red light therapy tank on the practice field last
season.
We were all terrified of the Rams last year, and he managed to play every single game. I don't know what voodoo magic they did over there in LA, but good for them. Matthew Stafford gets hurt. I mean,
it's over.
It's over. It's completely over. And you could say that about probably 32 teams, right?
Yeah.
But then you've got Devontae Adams. You got Puka. I thought they should have went out and got Deebo Samuel. He's now with San Francisco. If one of those guys gets hurt,
and they get hurt,
it might not be over, but it's not looking great. They got Myles Garrett. I get it. I think I actually put out a tweet in January, way too early call. Rams versus Chargers Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is in LA. I think that would just be hilarious and fun. So if that's right, I'm going to march around and tell everyone I knew it. But go Birds. I'm going Eagles.
Love it. Oh, shoot. All right. We're getting ready to rip some rapid fire here for you.
Let's go.
All right. So I'll start off here, and then I'll pass it to Nick after. Do you lean, for your preparation, more into stats, film, or play callers?
I would say if I were going to rank those, I would go stats, not only past but projections. I mean, I don't watch a ton of film. I'm not grinding tape. Okay. I definitely look at some stuff, but I'm not one of those. I'm not going to sit here and tout that on Sunday I'm watching every game back and watching the film
Fair.
Here, there, and everywhere. But props to the guys that do. It's just not really my thing, but I do. But FTN Fantasy for the numbers, we're all stats, analytics, and stuff like that. So definitely more lean into the numbers, and then play caller definitely. But I'm not going to ride or die by the play callers. I definitely think I overlooked a Clint Kubiak last year, and I probably should have looked more into Almost got me. I almost said his name. I'm not going to say his name.
Candyman.
I'm not going to say it. But like Brian Daboll down in Tennessee this year. I like that. I like that he's the offensive coordinator. Mike McDaniel with the Chargers. I like that. Like, if I have a tiebreaker, play caller comes into play.
All right, cool. All right, you want to go, Nick?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. Dynasty or DFS?
Dynasty for sure. You get to feel like you're like a GM.
Okay. Best place to get a Philly cheesesteak?
Angelo's. I mean, if you're ever in Philly, you got to go to Angelo's. I don't think they take calls. I think you have to go there in person. That's just like how great it is. High quality ingredients, seeded roll. It's just fantastic. Everyone wants to go Pat Geno's, all those. Not bad. Like, I'm not going to turn down a cheesesteak ever, especially if it's 2 a.m. Like, I'm gonna get a cheesesteak. But Angelo's has definitely emerged as like my favorite, and I think the city's favorite.
Okay. All right. Favorite Eagle of all time?
Brian Dawkins.
Love
100%. Weapon X. I mean, he's one of those guys that you got to tell your kids about, and like you just got to like see it to believe it. I can't believe I got to watch that. We missed a lot of greats, I feel like in our time, but I didn't miss Brian Dawkins.
I love that, man. No, he was definitely super bad, man. Super bad.
Favorite Rocky movie?
What's that?
Favorite Rocky movie?
Rocky 1. But you know what? I do like Creed. I did like Creed a lot. I thought that was a good way to extend the franchise, but like give it a new like modern day twist. Rocky's super cheesy. And it gets cheesier as it goes on, but like the first one is just iconic.
Favorite sleeper after the 11th round?
Favorite sleeper after the 11th round?
Doesn't matter position.
First name that came to mind was Chigakonkwo. If the Commanders don't sign another wide receiver, it's Terry McLaurin, and then I think Chigakonkwo could push for over 100 targets out of the slot. He's lining up everywhere in camp. I'm not paying a premium for tight end this year, so I'll throw 2 darts at 2 guys late, and Chigakonkwo is one of them.
Love it. If you were not an Eagles fan, who would be your favorite team?
I don't even know. You're like asking me, like, I don't even know. Like, I can't even.
AFC team, don't
you? Yeah. This is part of it.
Here's how I answer this. Here's how I'll answer this. I want very badly for like. I would think it would be cool if the Los Angeles Chargers went all the way. I like Jim Harbaugh. I like Mike McDaniel. I like Justin Herbert. I just wish they were in San Diego still. That would be a lot cooler. I don't want to say that like I'd be a Chargers fan, but like I kind of like what they've built after years and years of struggle. I know we always say like, oh, here they come. Show me. But like I think they might show us this year. And the Bills. I'll say the Bills because that fan base is almost as crazy as Philly.
Dig it. The player that you want in as many drafts as you can this year.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'll move out of like the first 2 rounds because you don't always get an opportunity for those guys.
Right.
And I'll go right to round 3. It's Javonte Williams. I feel like he's super safe. I can't believe I just suggested a Cowboy, but like here we are. That was a top scoring offense last year. Same play caller, same quarterback. I love continuity. No guessing what's going to happen. Jaden Blue can run wild at camp all he wants. I think Javonte Williams is the guy. People forget they paid him in February to be the guy. Like, I think he is. If you go wide receiver to start your draft and then get Javonte, I think you're sitting really pretty.
Love it. Who turned you into a fantasy football player?
Ooh, probably my best friend. We entered high school. I think we were actually done our freshman year, and we have 3 middle schools in our district. Go to the same high school. We had like 1,000 kids in each grade, and he said, "Hey, we're looking for one more for this 14-person fantasy league." I'm like, "Sure." I didn't know 14 was a lot back then. I was just like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." Like, whatever. And guess what? Yeah. I got the number 1 pick, so I was like, "Woohoo!" I drafted Reggie Bush. It was 2007. He should not have been the number 1 pick. And that was like a cool league where like you put it on the index card, hand it to commission. Yeah. He opened the index card and went, bah! Like, what an idiot kind of thing. I was like super embarrassed. I didn't have anything. I had like maybe, scribble on a paper who I wanted. I left that draft and I called my friend after and I said, we're starting our own league. And that league is going into its 20th year this year. So kind of all came from there.
Love it. Love it. Who is a podcaster that you haven't worked with that you want to work with?
Oh, I would love to be on JJ Zacharysen's podcast. I just think he's like a really it's clean. It's right to the point. I mean, even just to like talk with, I met him before at the expo, but he does a late round podcast. I just think he's built a brand and a business that is one that a lot of people should model after. Like, you know, I love the casual conversations. But if you want like 20 minutes of just like, this is what you need to know, like JJ Zacharysen's going to give it to you.
How many leagues are you in this season?
Is my wife listening? No. I was in 17 last year. I think I've had a couple fold. Dynasty leagues fold, a couple other things fold. I think I'm in 9 or 10. And if I'm in 9, I'd love to be in 10 if you have an opening.
Oh, well, stay tuned because we might have something, maybe. All right, and you already actually kind of answered this question, but I always love to ask this one. Industry league or home league?
There's nothing like the group chat with your home league when you know a big moment happens. Or we had a guy 2 years ago that lost every game, I think, except one.
Jesus.
And then he won last year. Like those stories, those long-standing home leagues are great. My home league is going into its 20th year. We've been doing auctions since 2012. That is special. If you have a league that gets together in person, you should be doing an auction draft. It's just too much fun.
Going into its 20th year, we've been doing auctions since 2012.
Dude. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, that's all right. That's how dope it was, is that it needed to be said again.
It was like a broadcast to the people.
No, like that's my home league. Is like I have an auction league that like I have one that I've been doing for probably now 16 years, and the guy still asks me the rules to it all the time. And I tell Nick all the time it's hilarious. I'm like, we've only been doing this for like 16 years. So
yeah, right.
Like that's, and then like I have another one that's a PPR, and like auction leagues, I love them.
It's just different.
I love them, dude.
You want to talk about being a GM? Like you got to really plan and manage, and it's fun.
Oh yeah, and then the crazy part about it, like, because obviously it's your home league. It's like your friends and stuff, like they know how you operate.
Habits.
So every year you like have to come in and change how you approach things. Like some years,
like poker, I'll nominate this guy. I don't really want him, and then you're like screaming out a number. But I will say, to the contrary of that, when you go into a snake draft, like I know I have the 7th pick. I am not getting Jahmyr Gibbs. I am not getting Bijan Robinson, Jamar Chase. I walk into my auction draft.
Everything's up, baby.
Everything's up. Like I'm
Everything's
ready.
Like, up.
I want who I want. I could get Bijan and Gibbs if I really wanted to. You know, it's just too much fun.
I love it, man. Well, last thing I'll say, man, before we get ready to wrap it up, you guys were talking about like
I get both of them.
I wanted to. I was like, I wanted to say something. Creed, man. Actually, I just watched Creed 1 and 2 for like the first time like last week, dude. Like I'd never watched Creed, and I was sitting here like working on stuff, and I had Creed, and I was like, all right. I was like, these are pretty. I don't know why I just never like watched it. I think it was just like the nostalgia of the Rocky thing, and I just didn't want to like mess with it. But it was good, man.
Yeah,
I haven't watched 3 yet.
It wasn't like a must see, but like it really encaptured like Philly's spirit. And I'm a Michael B. Jordan fan.
Really?
So it's great.
Yeah. I never watched it, man. Yeah, I never watched it. I had never watched it. Yeah, I know, it's crazy work. Yeah. So all right, man. So before we get out of here, man, let everybody know where they can find your work at again, man, for sure.
Yeah, I'm always posting on social media. I am like chronically online. Here's my Twitter handle here. FTN Fantasy though is where my work. Tons of other great analysts work are Jeff Ratcliffe, Tyler Orginski, Laquan Jones, who I know was on here I think a week ago or so.
He did make it. We had some things kind of go, got kind of not happen, but like we've been in contact with him, and like we're gonna try to make it happen. And
he'll be here. He'll be here. Yeah,
he'll be here hopefully.
Yeah,
for sure,
but man. I mean, he's part of the FTN team, and I think we're doing some great things over there. So check it out. My stuff's there, but go for mine, stay for everyone else's kind of thing.
Love it. Love it. All right, man. Well, listen, we definitely appreciate you jumping on here with us, man, tonight for sure. Obviously, we haven't told everybody yet. I meant to do one more thing. Yeah, but make sure you follow us too, man, on social. Johnny Main 37185. I don't have it here. I just got my name here. The Fantasy Football Show on YouTube. Obviously, Nick Wilcox as well. Make sure you give us a follow. We still got more heat coming your way this month of August. Colin's the guy that's getting us started right here, man. This first Sunday of August, we got more heat coming your way. Stay tuned for sure. But for everybody that tuned in, man, much appreciation. Much appreciation for sure. For Nick, for Colin, thank you guys for watching.